Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Katie Yoga Australia. I'm Katie.
I'm Dave. Big shout out to our subscribers and a huge thank you for the continuing support for the Katie Yoga community for this channel. We're getting lots of feedback, which is really cool. So
Yeah.
thanks again, guys. It's really appreciated to know that you're listening.
Yeah.
So what's today's question?
Today's question is, does yoga help with depression?
Oh, that's so important.
Yeah.
That's so important.
It's an interesting topic. We were this week we went to the Paperbark Wellness Project's conversation evening, which was on depression, and there was a great bunch of presenters there, ranging from GP to a psychologist to a chiropractor and a naturopath and a counsellor as well. So really interesting conversation about depression. The Paperbark Wellness Project, if you're not aware, is a not-for-profit that is based in the Southwest and is focused really around wellness and connection in our community. So check them out if you haven't already.
And we'll put a link in the description, and it's the southwest of Western Australia.
Yeah, so we got asked about yoga and depression when we were there, and we just thought what we talked about would be great to share with you guys.
And it was really cool because Katie got to have a chat to people while we were there. And we thought, well, that was quite a large group, but it'd be great to actually span that discussion to a larger group.
Yeah,
So
to our online community.
If you'd like to know more about us, then look at our website. It's in the description below, the link. But that's when you go to that site, that's our bricks and mortar studio. That's in Victory Lane here in Bustleton in Western Australia. Read about who we are, subscribe, access our online content. All these episodes that you're watching now are available also on a podcast as well as a YouTube, and that simply is to help, if you're driving to Perth or you're driving and travelling holidays and you want to listen to what we've got to say. But to make sure you don't miss an episode, please subscribe on YouTube or follow on the podcast. If you do that, it'll pop up in your feed and you'll know that there's a new one out. We're aiming for one every Sunday.
Yeah, it's great. It helps support us with doing this as well.
Absolutely. Oh, on the website, sign up to the mailing list. We don't send many out, but there's a lot of information in there, which is actually quite interesting. Okay, let's dive in, shall we? Doe. I said doe because the first word's does. Does.
About to break out into Sound of Music.
So does yoga help with depression? Katie?
Well, yoga's a mind-body practice, and we know that the mind-body isn't separate, and working as we do in yoga with our body, with breathing techniques, it can really benefit the mind. And we are also working with the mind as well in our practice, which I'll talk about. But yoga is a fantastic practice I often describe it as management of the mind, and we're using the body, the breath, a range of things to assist us with us. So there's a number of ways yoga can help with depression. There's a link with stress and depression. So in yoga, we learn how to down-regulate our nervous system. So that means we learn to, if we're stressed, to be able to bring ourselves into a relaxed state. So we can jump from the fight and flight branch of the nervous system to the rest and digest branch of the nervous system. So there's a whole range of techniques that we can use to do this. One of the key ones is deep belly breathing. So exaggerating the movement of the belly in and out, and that helps to elicit this relaxation response. It's such a powerful response, and we're doing over and over and over again on the mat. We're coming into challenging postures, creating a little bit of stress, but we're relaxing into it. We're breathing deeply. We're letting go of ruminating on negative thoughts. We're softening the face, the body in these challenging postures, and we do it over and over and over again on the mat. So then we can apply it when we meet a challenge in our daily life, off the mat in the real world. We know and we've taught ourselves how to relax into that stress. And so there's been studies with...
I was just about to ask about those.
Yeah. There's been studies for people who anticipate pain. So when people generally, they anticipate pain, they elicit a stress response. When yogis anticipate pain, we elicit a relaxation response. So pretty amazing stuff.
So we have a totally different way of responding to that to that stimulus, I guess, of expectation
Yeah.
of what to expect, which
Yeah.
is, it's really interesting when you think about, like, that would come out of just because we learn to work with duress and a bit of stress on the mat in a controlled situation.
It's new mic.
New microphone, guys. What do you think? Hopefully the sound quality is much better. The other little lapels we had, I just didn't think was cutting it. We already had one, but we now have a second one.
If you missed that because you're listening to the podcast, I just headbutted the mic. It's probably
Not used to having them.
yeah. So down regulating our nervous system is a really big benefit. Another thing that we do in our yoga practice is we learn to manage our thoughts. So we are often using our body as a focal point or our breath as a focal point, and our day-to-day thoughts we disregard, we let them go. So we're training ourselves to stop ruminating on thoughts throughout the practice. And this is great on the mat. It helps to clear the mind, helps to work at developing attention and concentration. And also off the mat in daily life, when you get into those situations where you have those sticky or dark or negative or unhelpful thoughts, throughout your yoga practice, you've been strengthening those neural pathways to get rid of thoughts. So when you're faced with those yuckier thoughts, you're more easily able to let them go, to let them drop away. Thoughts, we all have thoughts. They're part of who we are.
Yep.
And they're not necessarily the reality, though, of the situation. So understanding to detach from our thought and to not necessarily believe in it can be an incredibly powerful component of our practice.
Awesome. So also too, like, the thing that we don't always realise is that we don't have to respond to thoughts.
Yes, exactly.
They can come through and say, that's an unhelpful thought, that's a helpful thought. We can choose whether we act on that thought or not, and being able to sort of learn to watch and hold back lenses. We can actually make that distinguishing between, that's not an unhelpful thought. That's that's not a helpful thought. I should just let that go past.
And also there's another technique where we replace our thoughts. So if we recognize we're having a negative thought, then we can change it into a positive thought. And that can really change how we feel if we're doing that. The other great thing about yoga is it develops our body awareness. We get more attuned to what our feelings are inside. And so this can be of benefit in depression. If we are starting to go on a downward spiral into a depressive state again, we can often be more aware that that's about to happen. We start to notice the signs, the sensations in the body, and then we're more easily able to implement or re-implement strategies that we have to pull ourselves out of that depressive state before we get too deep into that black hole.
Yeah, that's a real benefit of it, is that body awareness.
There's also acceptance, I guess, is a big one when it comes to any chronic illness. And yoga is great for teaching this. In yoga, we try not to judge anything as good or bad or right or wrong, or it's like if we're doing hip opening, we don't judge that's the good hip, that's the bad hip. They're both hips and they're different, and it's okay. So it's that understanding, that acceptance that it's okay to be depressed, and fighting it and asking questions like, why me? Or why do I feel this way? What's wrong with me? That's all creating more stress and suffering for yourselves. And so if you drop away that language, if you drop away like, I wish things were different, and sit with that acceptance, it can be incredibly powerful in reducing the suffering you're creating for yourself. And also, sometimes it can help drop away some of the edges of those symptoms as well, because you drop the stress around it, and that can be incredibly beneficial too.
Absolutely. And the other thing too, it's like some of the thoughts that will come with that is something like along the lines of, am I performing as well as I normally do, and things like that. And that acceptance of, well, I probably am. It's just the way I feel right now. And that's a really helpful way to be.
I think it's also nice in the yoga world to have a community that at our space, we foster a sense of community, and it's a really supportive and beautiful community, and having that connection and other people around you can be incredibly beneficial as well.
One thing that came up though at the Paperbark session was, what's the best type of yoga for depression?
Yeah, that was a really great question. And at the time I said it's very individual. Some people might prefer a slower moving practice, and even something to the extent what slow moving, like restorative, where you're laying over props and you do a very few poses, and it's a really meditative practice, trying to elicit a relaxation response. However, maybe a little bit more movement people would prefer, so a gentle hatha class. Or some people really like to do a strong flowing vinyasa class as well, and that helps to shake off the sort of anxious energy in them. So it really depends on the individual. But I also think in hindsight, after responding to that question, I think it also depends on you on any particular day. I know personally some days I'm exhausted after a big day and all I want to do is legs up the wall or a yoga nidra meditation, which we have on our online classes. If you're interested in that style of meditation, we also have a restorative class there too. Or other days I want to do something more active. I want to do a strong flow, or I'll just want to move a little bit, but nothing too strenuous, so I'll do a gentle class. So it really depends on how you're feeling on any given day too, and that's what we were talking about earlier, that body awareness that we develop through the practice, and not pushing ourselves to do a strong class because we feel that's what we should do, but actually tuning in and listening, what do I need right now to support and to care for myself, which is all about developing those coping strategies and being better attuned to what you need now to make things feel a bit better.
And just sort of adding in a little bit from that as well is when you attend a class, if you have depression, you don't have to let the teacher know that you have that. You'll still get all the benefits of the yoga without the teacher actually realizing that you have depression. I think that's an important point to make as well. So it's not like you have to turn up and go, oh, disclosure, I have depression. You can do, and they'll welcome that input, but generally you don't need to, because yoga in itself has the tools that we need to actually take us where we need to be with that.
Dave, is there any practice that you would recommend for depression? Anything that sort of resonates with?
It's an interesting one because depression's so individualized for each person, and so what works for me, for example, may not work for someone else. I think the big one, though, is gratitude. Expressing, doing a gratitude exercise and saying, well, these are the good things about what happened today, and do it daily. I think that's a really big one.
That comes back to what we were talking about, is changing your negative thought to a positive one.
Absolutely.
In a sense,
absolutely. Yeah. And one thing that kept coming through at the Paperbark thing was connection to groups and organisations. Even if you don't feel like it, still get out there, make the effort.
Volunteer.
Because once again, and this is a big one, it's you feel you're acting different, you're being different. The only one seeing that's you. People around you don't notice it. And so I think that's a really, really big thing to take away as well. But once again, it's all individualised, and you really need to get in that headspace of being able to go, okay, I'm feeling like this today. What's that mean to me? How's that going to impact on me, if at all? If at all, and that's the big one, if at all. And so, yeah, it's a pretty individualised or thing that we go through, I guess. And for those that haven't realised, yes, I have depression and anxiety. And if you walk into one of my classes, it's probably one of the first things, if you've never met me before, that you will learn about me. I'm very forthcoming talking about it, very forthcoming letting people know. So, yeah.
Thanks for sharing, Dave.
No worries. Look, if you've enjoyed the discussion, please become one of the Katie Yoga community. I tried to go too fast and I ran out.
I thought you were going to call it the Katie Yoga Clan.
The Katie Yoga Clan.
Katie Yoga Club.
Katie Yoga Club, yeah. Actually, there might be a picture out soon on Facebook of some of the Katie Yoga Club with their shirts on from this morning.
Yeah,
sorry, Trish, we wouldn't let you into the picture. You didn't have a shirt.
She could have borrowed one off the rack.
Well, we didn't think of that at the time. But it was a lot of fun when we were,
Yeah.
she was paying us out. It was really funny. So, maybe you can go over the website, join up to the newsletter. That's a really, a great way to stay in touch with any events. Like we have a book club coming up soon in weeks. In March.
Yeah,
so there's a book club. And it's a free event. You come along and you get to meet people and read the book first. We've actually got the author. It's part of his thing that he's doing at the moment. Australia Book Tour coming in. And so we're hosting that. And the newsletter, it only comes out once in Australian school term. So it's not like you're inundated with 30 or 40 a day or even a week saying, come and do this, we want your money, rah, rah, rah. There's none of that going on. Don't forget, have a look into the description for information and links. If you've enjoyed the podcast, subscribe or follow. Please, the like button's always good. And what we're going to do as the questions come in is we're going to just get a list of them. And then we're going to do a question and answer with Katie down the track. She doesn't know about this yet.
Are we?
Yes, we are. So there will be a question and answer session coming up of the questions that come through. So please, guys, anything about yoga or anything related to yoga, just send it through and we'll do a question and answer. I'm not going to let her see them beforehand. So that'll be good fun.
That's not fair. I got to do my research.
So anyway, thanks again for watching, everyone. Hopefully you've gotten something out of this.
Yeah. Yep.
And have a great rest of the weekend if you're watching this Sunday. If not, have an awesome week. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, guys. See ya.